Welcome to Impact Africa. Africa has long been associated with needing aid and handouts. Today, you'll learn so much more about this wonderful continent from enlightening stories, people, and ideas. Now, here is your host, Tope Fajin Basi. You are listening to Impact Africa.
Good morning. Welcome to Impact Africa. Good afternoon in Africa. It's really a pleasure to be here again today to discuss something that I've been looking forward to. I have a very exciting panel in the house today, and we're going to be talking about aid or trade. We already began the discussion a little bit, and, it's already getting interesting, so I can't wait to bring my panelists, on camera so that you can hear what they have to say. But before I go there, I want to do a little recap of something, that I found very interesting. As we were preparing for this show, Aid or Trade, I went to the screening of The Samaritans, a new mockumentary about NGOs in Africa. And I found it so relevant and so interesting. And I thought, I need to bring that to this conversation before we even start talking about aid or trade. Who are the people giving the aid? What is happening? And how can we make it better? And I will play a little trailer of that mockumentary. And when I come back, one of the producers will be joining us live from Kenya. So please enjoy this.
I'm down to my last. Once I smoke my last, I need something to smoke.
Photographs emerged on the internet of him shooting a rhino.
We uphold a tight moral code in this office. Bring me my usual. Bottle of 75% proof vodka, 6 Valiums, and a crack pipe.
Hi, I'm Scott Bartley, and I'm an alcoholic. Ooh, wrong meeting.
My mother only knew that I was working with these kind of people? She turned in her grave.
We'll be out of here by 3. Hashtag home time. Don't tweet that.
We mustn't lose sight of what is important here.
Saving Africa.
Are you sure we should be treating the intern like this, Fiona?
Many you'll be asking yourself who I banged to get this position.
I need to work. And I need to call London so that I can help them rectify their obvious mistake.
Hello, sweetie.
Excuse me?
I call you sweetie because I call all the girls in the office sweetie. Isn't that right, sweetie?
No. We must give him the respect that he is yet to earn.
Welcome back to Impact Africa, and that was the trailer from the upcoming mockumentary, and it's called The Samaritans. I've seen the first 2 episodes. African Dev Jobs had a screening in DC on Thursday, and honestly, the trailer is great, but if you see the first 2 episodes, you'll be looking forward to that. And I promised that I have one of the producers of this mockumentary on the phone with me from Kenya. Hussein, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, fantastic. So Hussein Kurji is one of the brains behind this mockumentary. Can you tell us a little bit about what you all had in mind when you brought this this idea?
Yeah, sure. We thought we had to present a comedy series at this festival, and so the idea came about for NGO, and we looked around and we realized that nobody's actually done a comedy about an NGO, the NGO world. So we thought, let's just give it a try and see what happens. And here we are.
So it wasn't like you worked in any NGO, any international NGO, and this is based on your experience?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
No, I said, was it not a case of you working in any NGO, maybe some personal experience? It wasn't anything like that?
No, you see, Nairobi has a very big culture, NGO culture, so we know a lot of people who work within the sector. So we got a lot of inside scope, and looking at it from an outside perspective, gave us a really good idea of what to write about.
It's a lot of people found this funny. I was at the screening that African Dev Jobs put together on Thursday, and people found it really funny. But I'm thinking that there might be some people who don't find this funny at all. Have you heard any negative reaction?
No, really. I think overall reactions from press, from screenings, from the interviews we've had have all been really, really positive. All our comments have been very positive. Actually, the most common comments we get are from aid workers, and it's about time.
It's about time. And one of the there was a lady from Oxfam who actually said that as well. She said it's about time that we had this in on the big screen about
Yeah.
NGO world.
We've heard that a lot.
So that's interesting. But let me, it's funny, and it was honestly the first 2 episodes that I watched were really great. I can't wait for you guys to produce more. But there were some serious issues that came out of the mockumentary, because I know that it's not all about laughs. It's about how we can make aid work and international development work even better and more effective. What were some of those issues that you were trying to address and you're going to be trying to address going forward, even though you're doing it with laughter?
Yeah, our primary goal as producers and entertainers was to find a unique story, a unique narrative that has not been told before, or not been told in a comedic way before, and bring it to a wider audience in the form of entertainment. A byproduct of that was that because of the nature of the topic that we're addressing, there would be larger dialogue, which is what is happening now. And I think having looked at it, deeper and deeper, it's always a case of looking at the aid sector, looking at us as producers, and seeing a really good platform for us to give out a message, as it were, but not losing sight of the fact that we are, at the end of the day, creating a creative piece. And it's been good to see all the dialogue that has sparked because of it.
There was one of the issues that I saw, one of the issues that I heard from, the movie was about qualification of aid workers in Africa. And, being Nigerian myself, I see a lot of tension in this regard. I see one of the characters, without giving too much away, he went to these big schools in, one of these Western countries, and all of a sudden the assistant director who should have had the position based on her experience, all of a sudden has a new boss who doesn't really know much about Africa. Is that a sentiment that you hear a lot from your friends who are in the, who are locals in Kenya?
Well, not really sentiments that you hear from locals, but it's something that you do see quite a lot. It's not that people are outright complaining, but you see that a lot. It's like, oh, wait a minute, so and so local person is qualified to do an ABC job, but then it goes to somebody underqualified. Most of the stories that we deal with within the series are based on the truth. And that's evident when fellow aid workers, NGO workers see the series. They often comment that, oh, I recognize this person, or I recognize that person, which in and of itself is quite sad, but maybe this is a way to let people talk about it and rethink things.
And, I agree with you. I don't know how things are because, of course I'm here, but I see a lot more Africans, particularly Africans in diaspora, who are, getting more and more involved in doing African work. And and that is, I think, organizations like AfricanDevJobs.com is a platform for people to be able to engage Africa to solve Africa's problem. Because I know there's some people who are foreigners, who mean well, but without understanding the context of, African work, it's very hard to really solve the problems. Another issue that I saw, which I found as an accountant, which really struck me, was the issue of wastage and budgeting. There was a lot of food in the Aid for Aid office. all the time there's food, and some of this food is taken away from the program money. What inspired that?
I mean,
bit?
I think it was. I think a common story that we heard as well was about wastage and how much funding goes towards admin costs. So we wanted to find a way to do that in a comedic way and to exaggerate it,
And you did.
So we decided to do that through food because everybody is familiar with food and it's a common commonality that we all have. So it was a good comedic bridge to show that kind of extravagance.
And I agree with you that that had to be shown because being an accountant and auditor, I know that the money that some of these NGOs, and I'm looking at some of my panelists in front of me right now, some of them are probably guilty, flying first class, eating all this food and all these things, some of that money is going, that should be going towards the program. But with everything that you've done, I see the laugh, I see the lessons. What do you hope that foreign NGOs, even domestic ones, can get out of this? What if there's anything beyond the laughter? What do you think that these organizations should do after watching this series?
To tell you the truth, that we didn't have a set end goal in mind about what the series would do beyond the entertainment aspect of it. But whatever has transpired. With the conversations and the thinking, like the screening that was in DC and the panel discussion after, those little things help, because self-reflection is always a very important thing. And this dialogue is nothing new. It's been going on in academic circles for a really long time. But because we're bringing light to it in a different way, maybe it's reigniting that thought process.
I see. Before I let you go, I want to ask you about your own Impact Africa story. To know a little bit about you, your Africa journey, and tell us a little bit about why something like this, because you're definitely impacting Africa with this kind of story. But what is your own African story?
My African story. I moved by. I'm from Kenya. I lived overseas for a couple of years, and I moved back to Kenya 5 years ago and wanted to work in television and media, but there was really nothing in Kenya, and even now it's a really young industry. I think my Africa story is that over here there's opportunities are slowly happening. The economy is slowly improving. Yes, there are lots of issues. We're the only ones who can fix our own country. Nobody else is going to do it. And, build our own industries. And we're trying to do that with television, film, and every little helps,
Interesting. And, I definitely agree with you. We're the best people to fix, Africa's issues. The more we look at other people to do it, the bigger our problem is. And so when can people expect more episodes, and when would this go live, and where can they watch it?
Well, at the moment, we have 2 episodes online for rent, and the rental price varies depending on the viewer. It's our way of crowdfunding as well, so that we can raise enough money for our production. Like the episodes are available online via our website.
And can you tell us where? Yeah, can you say the website again?
Yeah, it's www.aidforage.org.
www.aidforaid.org. And honestly, I think that aid, particularly aid in Africa, needs aid right now. So, you can support Hussein and his colleagues, because this is a story. I have seen 2 episodes, and I'm telling you, he's hilarious. And I took a lot of notes. In fact, I think that the day I was watching the screening was my most active day on Twitter. I actually got a call from Twitter the next day. So, because it was so interesting, so many issues, and I think that you should go there, aidforaid.org. So please go there, support them, and let's, get some of these issues resolved. And I'm hoping that, you get a lot of success with this and you get more episodes produced. Thank you so much, Hussein, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we'll be in touch. We're going to take a little break now. When we come back, I'm going to introduce my panel, and we're going to discuss aid or trade. What does Africa really need, and who can provide it? Please don't go away.
Our financial coach, ranked among America's 11 best financial coaches on the web at ourfinancialcoach.com. United for Kids Foundation, committed to healing the world one child at a time. On the web at unitedforkidsfoundation.org. Frad Consulting, planning and designing services where you are always in good company. On the web at fradconsulting.com. And from Outside in HR, pointing the great companies to the future of successful HR. On the web at outsideinhr.com. And from Wiser Advisory, Africa's leading financial advisory, training and outsourcing services firm, on the web at wiseradvisory.com. And from Nextier, the leading public sector advisory firm focused on agriculture, power, and petroleum, on the web at nextierlimited.com. And from Data Century Limited. And from Total Ascent, empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their educational and career goals, on the web at total-ascent.com. And from Brave Little Heroes, helping kids discover their inner awesome, on the web at bravelittleheroes.com. To support Impact Africa, please visit our website, impactafricaonline.com. You are listening to Impact Africa. To connect with the program, please call 1-443-499-2755. That's 1-443-499-2755. You may also send an email to info@impactafricaonline.com or tweet @UImpactAfrica. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back to Impact Africa. And that was my brief chat session with Hussein Kurji. And he's one of the producers of the new mockumentary, The Samaritans. You can rent the first 2 episodes at aidforaid.org. And I promise you, you're going to have a good laugh, but you're going to really think, especially for us who are Africans, you're going to think about how you can impact Africa, how you can make these things better, instead of just complaining about what, doesn't work and what not. So, like I promised you, I have a very interesting panel here today, and I'm really delighted to introduce you to them. We're going to have a very nice conversation, and everybody doesn't really know that there's going to be a quiz at the end of this, but there is going to be a quiz. Because usually, during the regular Impact Africa, we have Africa 101 quiz. And since we want to talk today, I figured I might use you guys for the contestants. So, get ready. You're going to have a couple questions, and some bragging points is what you're going to win. Or he can give us some coffee. So, but let me introduce my guest briefly. I have, Tebabu Assefa. He is, honestly, apart from being one of the White House champion of change, I'm telling you, if you have a chance to sit down and talk to Tebabu, you're going to be inspired. He's going to tell us a little bit more about what he's doing to make Starbucks a little bit uncomfortable. But most importantly, his new venture, the Blessed Coffee, the second B corporation in the country, in America, is putting money in the pockets of African coffee growers, which is something that hasn't been happening. When you're enjoying your coffee here, the people who are suffering, who are growing the coffee, aren't really getting much. But his Blessed Coffee is going to change all that. So Tebabu, welcome to Impact Africa.
Thank you.
And I'm also being joined by a very good friend of mine, Abiodun Aina. Abiodun, what do I start from? From Yale, from GE Capital, but now, doing some good work in investment in IFC, the Africa Infrastructure Team, correct?
Correct.
Yes. So Abiodun, I need to issue a disclaimer. This has personal opinions, not representing IFC. So I don't want him to get to work on Monday and, get reassigned to Congo or something. But Abiodun and I were also colleagues at Arthur Andersen. So I've known him for a little while. And that's why he's sitting close to me, so that if he says something I don't like, I can just, hit him. And this is my friend Jacqueline Ogunseye. Jacqueline is also with the IMF. Jacqueline is a HR expert, and one of the reasons why she's on this panel, apart from making sure that I'm not the only woman here, is to bring some of Africa's potentials, which is HR, to this discussion. And like I said, she has an MBA, she has a bachelor's in psychology. She's really, you're going to hear from her, and you're going to be really inspired. Jacqueline, welcome to Impact Africa.
Thank you.
So let's start. You guys watched the trailer of The Samaritans. What do you think, Jacqueline? What jumped out at you?
What jumped out at me was how it's viewed differently, like when the individuals on ground, how they utilize these funds, these so-called funds that they get. They go there, create all these companies, fake companies pretty much, to get money from the Western world. And because of lack of accountability, and because we have a corrupt nature inept in us, unfortunately, people don't, follow through. And, you just believe whatever proposal is sent out for this aid. So that's what jumped out at me.
That's interesting. And, one of the points that you made that I like is also on my note. When I was watching the episodes, Abiodun, I thought about it, really. International NGOs, and even the domestic ones, we have our share of African NGOs who are wasting money eating and, fighting. So it's not just the international ones. But really, having no shareholders and having nobody to hold them accountable, how can we get accountability?
I think that's a very good question. I think ultimately everybody owns something, right? So if you look at an NGO, ultimately the people who suffer if there is waste of money that is donated to NGOs. One, it's the people who are supposed to benefit from the aid or from the grants or whatever the NGO was set up for, and two, it's also the people who give them the money in the first place. So, we might say that NGOs are not set up in the way that you have, like your classic corporations where you have shareholders, you have a board of directors who hold you accountable, you have quarterly earnings statements and all that. But there should still be some accountability at the end of the day, because one, if you give money to an NGO that is being wasted, you are essentially wasting your money, and also the people who are supposed to be benefiting from the aid are also suffering because they don't get the money or food or whatever the NGO was set up to do doesn't get to them at all.
And that's very interesting. But Tebabu, let me ask you, the people who give the money to essentially the NGOs who go to Africa and waste it, do they have perhaps another motivation, or do you think they don't know that some of this money is wasted?
It's since from 2000, when I first started Blessed Coffee, I went back and forth to Ethiopia for about 10 years. For 10 years, I've been back twice a year. I've worked with local and international NGOs from that side and on this side. My experience has been very disheartening. To me, aid and the development doesn't work. The best case scenario, aid creates independence. And the worst case scenario, it breaks human spirit. And it has created, as Graham Hancock put it in his book, it had created a lord of poverties who want to sustain poverty because of their lordship. Whether it is international aid workers or local aid workers, it has become a means to benefit themselves. So ultimately, they want to sustain it because if they eradicate poverty, automatically they'll run themselves out of a job. And the way it's practiced, it is very. I've filmed it. I've filmed an NGO in Ethiopia, a Dutch agency. I've gone to the countryside and filmed what they've done for the purpose of a documentary film. I was devastated. Aid is literally a virus like aid, as far as development is concerned. It kills.
Wow.
I can understand in the case of emergency and relief and emergency. I can understand it as a short strategy to end game, but ultimately, aid and development don't mix. does two things. It robs ownership of the problem from the people who need to own it, and it creates load of poverty on the side. If you read Graham Hancock's book, you will be. I mean, he's a journalist who's detailed the practice of international aid and aid as a means. So, I mean, when you come to, it's like right now Africa is on an ICU. aid is an IV. Aid is an IV. But I mean, we have to give it, but eventually it's only to recuperate it. But ultimately, that fellow has to stand and work for himself.
Wow, that is interesting. But there's something that I want to bring out here, and this is like the elephant in the room of aid. And Jacqueline, I want to ask you this question because I feel like if Africa was suddenly to be developed, we wake up tomorrow and nobody's hungry in Nigeria, nobody's hungry in Ethiopia, there will be mass unemployment in developed countries. There will be like an economic crunch in developed countries because there's a certain amount of economic activities that these developed countries, record because they are helping Africa. So is there a place for aid or no?
There is a place for aid. I believe aid is beneficial. I believe both avenues, both aid and trade, can help an economy's growth and prosperity. But aid that is not supervised can lead to it getting into the wrong hands and people suffer. So it's kind of like I feel like it could be egoistic for the Western world to say, I'm helping Africa. I'm saving Africa. But at the same time, if we take care of ourselves, if we take care of our continent, if we respect ourselves, we can contribute to the world's economy, not just receiving from the outside, but we can also contribute to the outside world too.
Aid is like AIDS, it kills. There's a place for aid. What do you think?
I think there's definitely a place for aid. I think what kills is bad aid, not necessarily
bad aid.
Because if you think about it, I mean, if you are sick, the first thing you do is turn to a first aid box. So you can't necessarily say that, you shouldn't give someone aid. I mean, like Tebabu said, Africa is in the ICU. So many countries in Africa are obviously sick.
We've been in the ICU for many years.
Yeah. Decades. Now, I think what I want to do is approach this from a slightly separate angle.
Did I say Abiodun was an economist? Did I say that? I don't think I did, but yeah, let me say it now. Okay.
I think what you said is there room for aid? If you look at Africa, I mean, just very quickly, so it's 54 countries. Easily 35 of them, probably, I mean, between 30 and 35 landlocked. Now, that creates all sorts of issues because, I mean, if you're a landlocked country, it's hard for you to export anything. So, in fact, that puts you at a natural disadvantage to countries that have natural ports around them. So, even if you have a situation where people say, okay, yes, you should trade the rest of the world, it's just going to be a lot more difficult for landlocked countries to pick themselves up by their bootstraps. That's just a fact. I think in another area where you have where aid, at least good, well-directed aid, has a role is in fragile and conflict-affected states. So, for example, the IFC where I work is the private sector arm of the World Bank. The World Bank, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, was originally created to provide as a channel for, need I say it, aid from the United States to Western Europe or to Europe after the Second World War. So in fragile situations where you've had a war, where you've had civil wars, whatever you want to call it, there's definitely some room because what happens after wars, every form of institution, be it, your infrastructure, your human capital, because most people who can travel out of the country, I mean, people who are the best qualified, immediately there is a war or the dark clouds of war are forming, they use their certificates as a passport to get out of the country, right? So in those situations, definitely there is room for aid. One last one, which I think might be a bit controversial, is where you have what I'll call what Paul Collier called the natural resource trap. So countries where you've had, it's a curse, it's a trap, whatever you want to call it. So countries like Nigeria, for example, you could arguably say that Nigeria has received billions and billions of dollars of aid in form of crude oil sales for 30, 40 years. And you can barely see any impact of that on the economy.
Barely. I cannot even see any.
so I think in a place like in Nigeria, take away the fragile states, take away the landlocked states, take away the countries that are just geographically disadvantaged. There is some room for some kind of aid, which I can get into in more detail. But I'll stop there for now.
I just got a tweet from Flaky Doodles. She said, "At You Impact Africa, aid to Africa is right like pampering an irresponsible child. Africa needs to grow up," and the grow up is in caps with exclamation points. Trade maybe. I think that, like we said before we started the show, this is not just a simple topic. But, you mentioned some things about landlocked countries that might not be able to access the rest of the world. And, you also mentioned some things about what Africa can give to the world. But, my comments about those is that one of the issues with Africa is that Africa does not talk to Africa. For the countries that are landlocked, they have very big avenues for them to engage the border countries. But it's easier to send a cell phone from Uganda to America than it is to send a cell phone from Uganda to Nigeria or to Togo. So, perhaps even being landlocked, if we look at it very well, might not be a disadvantage. But, it might be a way to force Africa to engage its neighbors. But when you look at Africa engaging its neighbors, it's through wars and conflicts and, craziness. But I want to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with the trade part of it. This is Impact Africa, and we're discussing aid or trade. What does Africa need, and who can provide it? Don't go away.
Support for Impact Africa comes from Our Financial Coach, ranked among America's 11 best financial coaches on the web at ourfinancialcoach.com. United 4 Kids Foundation, committed to healing the world one child at a time. On the web at united4kidsfoundation.org. Frad Consulting, planning and designing services where you are always in good company. On the web at fradconsulting.com. And from Outside in HR, pointing the great companies to the future of successful HR on the web at outsideinhr.com. And from Wiser Advisory, Africa's leading financial advisory, training and outsourcing services firm on the web at wiseradvisory.com. And from Nextier, the leading public sector advisory firm focused on agriculture, power, and petroleum on the web at nextierlimited.com. And from Data Century Limited. And from Total Ascent, empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their educational and career goals on the web at total-ascent.com. And from Brave Little Heroes, helping kids discover their inner awesome on the web at bravelittleheroes.com. To support Impact Africa, please visit our website, impactafricaonline.com. You are listening to Impact Africa. To connect with the program, please call 1-443-499-2755. That's 1-443-499-2755. You may also send an email to info@impactafricaonline.com or tweet @UImpactAfrica. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back to Impact Africa. And, honestly, I'm not sure we'll be able to end this by 10 o'clock because of the notes I've taken and the questions I want to ask the panelists. But before we go on, I want to talk about, one of the resources. Abiodun mentioned resource course. One of the biggest resource, or he didn't say resource course, I nicknamed it resource course because I think that's what it is. But one of the resources that Africa has, which is turning into a course that, should actually be a blessing, is people. but how many of us, get less than 10 resumes from African graduates a week? People just want jobs. You talked about getting your certificates, as a passport to leave Africa. But, on this next 5 minutes, I'm going to be talking to Afua Osei, who is joining me from Nigeria. Afua, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. And, Afua joining me today is courtesy of AfricanDevJobs.com. That's a partner of Impact Africa. And what they do is to try and connect Africans to job and other opportunities in the continent so that we can stop complaining about, the Oyimbos and the Muzungus taking our work, and we can go ahead and do what we need to do. But Afua is with She Leads Africa, and they have an exciting opportunity for female entrepreneurs. Afua, will you tell me a little bit about that?
Great. She Leads Africa is a social enterprise ensuring that women are part of Africa's growth story. By helping female entrepreneurs gain access to the knowledge, network, and financing to build and scale strong businesses. So instead of having all of these SMEs that continue to operate with low margins and with small markets, we want to help upskill these entrepreneurs and create more Pan-African businesses that are led by women. So our first initiative is a pitch competition, which we're inviting women in West Africa as well as the Diaspora to apply for cash prize, mentorship, and access to new markets in Lagos in September.
In Lagos in September, that's interesting. So this is open to Africans in the continent and Africans in the diaspora, right? As long as they're women.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
fantastic! That is awesome. But when we talk about women in Africa, it's usually about harmful practices, circumcision, or women being discriminated against in the workplace. But this is an opportunity for them to become entrepreneurs. Do they have to? Do these women have to have existing businesses? Or if I have an idea, I can just pitch it to this high-powered panel in Lagos?
So we're looking for women who have new businesses, so less than 3 years old. And we are also open to people who have a good idea and have started to make some progress on that idea. And the idea is that they come to Lagos in September and they are able to answer the key questions about their businesses, and they're able to really utilize the mentors and supporters that we've gotten together. So, for example, we have the chairman of Assefa Nigeria on board, the former head of Access West Africa, the CEO of Standard Chartered. They're all coming together to really invest and help the female entrepreneurs.
Now, that's interesting. So, but what has the response been like? Have you had people apply? Because in my mind, I think this is such a good opportunity for women who, just don't get jobs and who have, business ideas. Have you had a good response from across the continent or no?
Yes, it's actually been amazing, the response. I think at first we weren't sure how many people would really be interested in it, but we have been so surprised and excited that so many people have reached out to us. We just opened applications on Monday, and we already have 100 entrepreneurs who would like to attend and participate in more than 40 applications. And we know that we will get more before the deadline of July 30th.
So if I'm a female entrepreneur with a business less than 3 years, what do I, what is exciting about this for me? What do I stand to gain? Yes, I know I will get access to these people. I will get mentoring. Is there any cash prize?
Yes, so first place will get a minimum of 10,000 USD to invest in their business.
Did you say 10,000 US dollars?
Yes, that's what I said.
Wow. Okay, I'm applying.
Great.
Wow, that's awesome.
And we're also, so each of the entrepreneurs, we're also connecting them with mentors in the consulting, venture capital, and financial services industry so that they can start to make connections. So if their business isn't ready for financing now, they can build those relationships and maybe 2 years, 3 years down the line, they know people, they can ask the right questions and get investment to help grow their businesses.
Wow, that's great. So how can I apply? I assume that people can still apply right now. How can they be a part of
Yes,
this?
indeed. Great. So applications are open until July 30th. They can go to sheleadsafrica.org to submit their application. It's a very easy process. And after applications close, we will review all of them. We'll reach out to the top finalists and invite them into the program.
So you can go to sheleadsafrica.org, and the deadline again is when?
July 30th.
July 30th, and we will tweet this. So if you follow us at Impact Africa, you can get all the information there. Thank you so much, Afua, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm hoping that we can get some of the finalists to come on the show when that happens.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time, Assefa, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.
Okay, fantastic. So you're still listening to Impact Africa, and you're watching us if you are. And I'm going to continue with my panelist. And one of the things that I want to ask you is, I purposely brought this in to lead us into the human resource thing about Africa. This is something that we can use to engage the world, and which we usually don't. A lot of Africans generally don't have jobs. Unemployment is big, but African women are even, they're worse off. So as an HR specialist, do you think programs like what She Leads Africa is going to make an impact, and how does that? And I see that this is totally domestic. I don't see any foreigners in this. So how does that work? What do you think about programs like that?
I believe programs like this is really exceptional, and it will help bring out people, especially specifically women, who have all these great ideas but don't have ways to fund their projects. Unfortunately, Africa is very patriotic, and you
don't say.
And actually, I had a conversation with my husband a couple of weeks ago. I was talking about, my friends and myself, how we doing overall. And I told him that, what, we're doing very well. All my friends are doing very well. They all have successful businesses. And, I'm so proud to say that, we're okay. We're doing well. And he said, how about the men? I said, men have always had that platform to always be okay.
Yes.
So women, we have to actually push ourselves there, because nobody's going to give it to us. We have to go out there and work for it. Take it, if possible.
Grab it.
Compete. So organizations and projects like this, we need more of it.
Yeah.
In different regions of Africa, different regions of, even within Lagos. We should have this ongoing, all the time, at least twice a year.
But Tebabu, let me ask you this question, because there is a lot of efforts, not just by international agencies, by Africans, but nothing seems to be happening. This is one of the things that frustrates me. She Leads Africa is doing something great. There are there's Demo Africa, Impact Africa. We hope to launch an Impact Africa challenge, but somehow nothing is happening. We're less than 1 billion people. What is it going to take for there to be shift in development in Africa?
That's a good question. As lately it's been my observation that if Africans solve their local problem in Africa and stand as one, at best they can probably solve 40% of their problem. 60% of the problem that Africa has is Africa's market presence in the global market is highly marginalized. What do I mean by that? We sell timber to the world and buy to speak. Africa's interest in the West, by the way, when we say Africa is underdeveloped, there's another thing that we're not saying. It's at the expense of another entity developing. Other continents, Europe for most part, America for that matter, has been developing on the resources of Africa. The question is, we're only getting the lower end of the stick, because the interest of Africa in the global market is highly marginalized. It doesn't have anybody watching out for it. I'll give you an example. Coffee. We sell coffee to the world, the best coffee to the world at the commodity market for $2.50, $3 a pound that we Africans buy from Starbucks for $13, $14.
Coffee is that expensive?
On a pound, yes.
Wow.
Imagine the commodity market sells it for $2.50 at best. The African farmer does 90% of the work. He gets 10% of the price.
Wow.
And Starbucks likes would do 10% of the work and keep 90% of the money. And Africans in America are buying coffee from Africa. I mean, Starbucks. That's a sad case. So I think the ultimate solution, you know, Africans were not present in the global market vis-a-vis like the US and Europe, but now we're active, we're present, we're taxpayers, we're voters, we invest. I think we need to create our own jobs. I think we need to represent the interests of Africa in the market on this side. That's why we introduced Blessed Coffee. We want to bring the farmer in Ethiopia to be an investor, and we want the farmers. We're working right now. We're working with 254,000 small coffee farmers organized under a cooperative union in the southern part of Ethiopia. We want them to own a piece of the venture that we're opening here. Fantastic. We call it from the farm to the consumer. So Africa's hope is a diaspora, and Africa's hope is social enterprise. And we have to open offices here. We have to open businesses here to represent the interests of Africa and be active in the marketplace. That is the only way out, because Africa is rich in resources, and we've been supplying the resources to the world. Some other entity has been developing at the expense of our underdevelopment.
And you know, that is sad, but that is the sad reality. Abiodun, I see that you're shaking your head, that you know, or you're nodding, and you agree. But you know, before you respond to what he said, one of the things that I find frustrating is if an African project, an African social enterprise wants to access funding for a particular idea, it's so hard to get the funding.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's so tough. I feel like we have just 5 rich Africans who can provide any sort of money, and everybody goes to them. But if these same Africans with these bright ideas go to the international agencies, they don't get any traction. They don't get any kind of assistance. So it's like a vicious cycle. How can we trade, start the social enterprises without the funds?
I think, like Tebabu said, that's an excellent question. But I'll take us back for a second. The lady, the program we were talking about, can men apply to? When I heard about
no,
as well.
No.
But seriously, I think you raise an interesting question there about how difficult it is for Africans to apply to international institutions for funds. I'll use IFC as an example. When we as an institution look at potential investments, we see our role as trying to set. I mean, we know that we don't have enough resources to solve all of the developing world's problems. Okay, so but we see as one of our roles trying to set the bar, right? Like trying to create centers of excellence, right? So trying to explain to people how things should be done. Now the problem with that is you end up having situations where entrepreneurs who literally, you have an idea on the street and you say, okay, where can I get money from? It becomes almost impossible for relatively small companies, small institutions like that to apply to an institution like mine because there are just so many hurdles you need to jump through.
Oh, tell me.
I look at that business as, I basically look at that business and compare it with businesses elsewhere, and because I don't see my role is not just to give money to specific countries. I'm also looking at it the way a potential investor will look at those things. So I think one of the solutions would be trying to simplify or trying to create avenues, where entrepreneurs like those can easily access funds. So you look at it like a highway. You have 3 or 4 different lanes. You have those who are in the fast lane and will definitely jump through all your hoops and you're fine. But you have those who are not in the so fast lane, and then basically the cream, like people find their level, whether you want to be on the fast or on the slow side. So I think, are there any silver bullets to that problem? No. I think you also mentioned one thing earlier. You probably have a couple of Africans who can set up businesses or can set up NGOs or whatever you want to call them to provide some of this money themselves. And who better to understand Africa than Africans? So you want to encourage people. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be at the billionaire level. It could be, though, some of us as well. I mean, you're doing. I tell you, time and again. I mean, apart from this, apart from the radio show, I just stare at you and marvel at how you are able to combine all of these different things that you have your hands in. With the charity and whatnot. So, I mean, I look at myself. I look at you and look at myself and say, maybe I know, not maybe, I'm not doing enough to help with the situation.
No, but you see, we want to do enough, and I know you want to say something, but I want to ask you this question, Jacqueline, first of all. We want to do enough, but if you mentioned the charity United for Kids Foundation. My friends and I have been running this for 12 years. We've never been paid a single kobo. We don't get paid. Who can work like that? Well, we do because we like it. We think that we're making an impact. But so many Africans who can barely feed, who can barely do anything, they can't work like that. So is a solution for Africans to set up more enterprises? And, how do you think that they can access the funding? They can't jump through the hoops of IFC. So if you're an African and you're listening, Jacqueline, what do you suggest?
I mean, first of all, what's good is that you have all this talent, intellectual property, and there's no money to fund it. So the millionaires, first of all, waste a lot of money in Africa. We waste a lot of money doing trivial stuff, trying to compete.
Are you talking about us and our Owambe parties?
I mean, of course we like good things, but we go extreme. I mean, so many things that we waste money on that could be invested in businesses. Not everybody is Aliko Dangote or Adenuga, but I believe like Aliko Dangote is about to create a big industry in the north now to curb Boko Haram.
Yes.
He feels like Boko Haram is being fueled by poverty mentality.
He's right.
So that is a big step. Imagine if 10 billionaires, because our billionaires have money.
They don't play.
Imagine if 10 billionaires can just start up industries, infrastructures, create things that can create jobs for people. Then all this begging and aid giving will really diminish to the people who really need it.
And that's a good point, because honestly, I remember having a conversation with my dad, and he told me that it would cost Boko Haram in northern Nigeria $3,000, 500,000 naira to recruit somebody to join them. That's how cheap it is. That's how cheap. So imagine if we had those people, they had an option. Either go kill somebody somewhere, or get the same money and go start a farm, or get the same money and start some sort of business. It's a matter of every day when we spend money on those things that we don't agree with, we are making a choice. And the choice is, am I funding growth and peace in the continent, or am I funding conflicts and underdevelopment? And so I think that's something for wealthier Africans to think about. You're making a choice with your money every single day, every single time. You have these lavish parties that oppress the remainder. What you've done is that you're making a choice to fund, conflict. So don't complain when that happens. But Tebabu, before I give you guys the quiz, I want to ask you. I know you're important in the Washington D.C. area. So you had a lot of influence and a lot of clout to start this Blessed Coffee. But what were the challenges? Because somebody might be listening right now and they might want to do something like what you're doing. What were the challenges?
Earlier you asked, where is the money coming? And I think, first and foremost, I put the challenge and the opportunity and the question back to the African community here and at home. The way I look at it, another reason Africa is underdeveloped is because Africans tend to develop Europe as opposed to Africa by buying European products.
I need to interrupt you there because, this is what Jacqueline just told me. She said not only parties, expensive real estate abroad. And that's the point you just made.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly. And, we send $40 billion a year to African remittance economy. I was telling you the other day, where does it go? You follow the money, the next day it goes to China through consumptions of electronics.
Whiskey.
It goes back to Germany because we buy Mercedes products, and it goes back to Scotland because we're buying whiskey. It goes back to France because we're drinking the finest cognac and champagne.
Wow.
It doesn't even stay overnight. It doesn't even pay a hotel. It goes and comes and explain out. So the money is within us. Forget the international organizations. Forget the big. Why do we ask outside? Why don't we look into ourselves and say, how do we spend our money? You know, I'm sitting here. This is, by the way, my wedding shirt I bought 15 years ago.
Wow.
Because I bought this African shirt for my wedding. Someone ate lunch. So every day, we Africans, as we point fingers at someone else, we're using our purchasing dollar to hurt Africa. We're buying product that undermines the importance of Africa. We're sending money to our brothers and sisters for consumption.
Wow.
We have to stop that habit. We have to take the challenge and the blame and look at ourselves. $40 billion a year we're sending that develops Europe, China. So why is Africa underdeveloped? Because Africans have been developing Europe.
Wow.
Why is Africa underdeveloped? Because Africans' presence in the market, in the global market, is marginalized because we are not doing our jobs.
Wow.
To me, we are the problems. To me, the solution is within us. And that's how I look at it. And then the others come next. But first and foremost, Africans are intoxicated with Western values.
Wow. You know, honestly, I cannot even believe. Ibukun just showed me the time, and I can't believe it's almost 10 o'clock and we have to wrap up this show because I have not even started discussing this.
I can imagine.
And you know, I think we have to do this again because this is such a complex topic, and you know, we just have to discuss it, and also the call for action that, you know, you just said. It's true. We're pointing at somebody else, but the other four fingers are pointing at us. And at Golden Africa tweeted, the future of Africa depends on three things. 1, education. 2, technology. 3, innovation and democracy. So, you know, it's very complicated. But, you know, before we go, I need to give you guys a quiz because in the regular shows...
Can I leave now?
No, you cannot. In the regular shows, we have the Africa 101 quiz sponsored by the African Memory Game. But today, you all are talking Africa, Africa, Africa. Let's see how much of Africa you know. So, the first person to answer the question is the winner. I have only 2 questions for you. What is the capital of Malawi? Do I hear silence?
Wow.
Yes. What is the capital? And, you know, normally I give it as multiple choice, but you all better have this at the tip of your... What is the capital of Malawi? Do I see Jacqueline reaching for her phone?
I'm trying to...
No, you were giving people an opportunity to cheat.
To cheat. You know, okay, let me give you options then.
Okay.
Oh, see? Oh, my goodness. I cannot believe you guys. Okay, is it Lilongwe or Machinga?
Lilongwe.
Lilongwe. Oh, see? Oh, I see
It's
that.
a memory issue, not an
I was thinking Lilongwe of Bulawayo. I'm sure.
Okay, so what was the former name of Namibia? The country of Nak, Southwest Africa, or Mabila?
The second one,
Southwest Africa. You're correct. Honestly, this has been fun having you guys here, and I think we should do it again.
I think you should. This is we just scratched the surface.
Yes, we have to come back.
And
we must. Yes. We must come back.
And I haven't really told you what I really feel deep inside.
No, and you must come back and tell me how you feel.
Yes.
So, but you know, for those of you who are, I see, engaging us on Twitter, please keep the conversation alive. We're going to continue this. Follow us at EU Impact Africa. Same thing with Facebook, EU Impact Africa. And let us begin to hold ourselves accountable. If there's anything I've learned from here today, it is to hold ourselves accountable. If you missed this episode, it will be on our website, impactafricaonline.com, and we'll have a video posted on YouTube as well. So until next week when we come back with a very interesting episode called Africa's Got Talents.
Oh yes.
Yes, you're going to enjoy that. So, you know, join us same time next week, and then let's, you know, keep the conversation alive and let's keep impacting Africa. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Africa. Please join us again next Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. GMT at listenvisionlive.com. Have a good week and keep impacting Africa. Get ready to be inspired by the people, stories, and opportunities in Africa. We're a global community of Africans and friends of Africa with no boundaries. Together, we celebrate the continent's successes and help provide solutions to some of its greatest challenges. Impact Africa airs live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. GMT at listenvisionlive.com. You can also catch previous episodes on iTunes and on the show's website, impactafricaonline.com. Connect with Impact Africa on Twitter and Facebook at @UImpactAfrica. Together, we'll discover that the real Africa is full of amazing talents and great opportunities.